the abolished prisons, abolished police, which is also positions that have been taken by a lot of the progressive candidates who have won. How do you get around that? I mean, those are not positions that are supported by most of America.
I mean, I think that a lot of these races, even right now, they'll have a tendency to be nationalized.
Yeah.
But these races ultimately are local, and all politics are local. My understanding is that that Francesca Hong has made clear her present stances to her electorate.
Yeah, she's moved away from a lot of that.
Right, she's moved away from it. And I have a local city councilman that has this saying, woke one was crazy.
Woke one was crazy. Okay, that's interesting.
And I think that what's important is that we have to assess what
was it. I mean, did the movement go too
now.
far with some of those positions? I mean, you briefly supported the idea of defunding the police.
Well, I think that during this time and especially during COVID, there was a huge opening of the Overton window. We were shut down. There was some of the highest unemployment rates that we have seen because of those shutdowns.
Yeah.
And I think that the doors were really open in trying to entertain any and every policy that was going to get us to a better place. And I actually think that the discussions that were had in that time were quite fruitful. I think that when we talk about crime today, it's fundamentally different than the way that we talked about crime in bringing crime down, right? And I think that we all share in the goals of having as low a crime rate as possible. I think that, during lockdown, of course, rhetoric in that time is not rhetoric that we would use today.
What's up, family? Hit that like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your post notifications because we're about to break down something that ABC News probably thought was going to be a friendly chat and turned into a 5-alarm political fire. Now, before we get into it, let me set the scene for you. ABC News sat down with Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, or known as AOC, for a long, comfortable sit-down interview. This wasn't a gotcha. This wasn't some conservative ambush. This was ABC, the same network that's been friendly to her for years, asking her straightforward questions about what her own political movement actually believes. And family, what happened next was nothing short of a train wreck, happening in slow motion. They asked her about the Democratic Socialism of America platform: abolish prisons, abolish police, defund the Department of Defense, close overseas military bases, amnesty for every immigrant in the country, abolish the Senate, public ownership of corporations, not reform, not improve, abolish, as in gone, as in whatever is currently there just isn't there anymore. And instead of answering the question, instead of saying, I don't support that, or I moved away from that position, she did something that I want you to pay close attention to because it's the theme of this entire interview. She pivoted straight to Donald Trump: groceries, rent, healthcare, Iran, anything except the actual question she was asked. And here's the thing, family. This isn't just a bad interview. This is a window into how the entire progressive movement operates when the spotlight gets too bright. Now, let's be real about what she actually said in this interview. When they brought up defund the police and abolish prisons, she laughed it off, as you heard, with a joke from some city councilman. Woke one was crazy. A joke. She waved away her entire voting record, her entire activist history with a punchline. Think about that for a second. Millions of Americans watched their cities burn in 2020. Small business owners watched their livelihoods go up in smoke. Police officers were told to stand down while rioters took over the streets. And she's sitting there on national television laughing about it like it was literally just a phase. All just a phase, like woke one, quote unquote, with some silly nickname instead of the policy positions she championed that hurt real communities, real families, real people. I'm going to say it again. She laughed off defund the police. She laughed off abolish prisons. She laughed off the entire platform that got her elected in the first place. And not once, not one single time did she look at the camera and say, I was wrong. She didn't say it because she can't say it. Because the moment she admits she was wrong about one thing, the whole house of cards come down. So instead, she hides behind a joke and hope nobody notices. But here's where it gets really interesting, family. She had the nerve, and I mean the audacity, to sit there and accuse Donald Trump of being a performer. She said Trump tells people what they want to hear. I'm going to show you in the next clip. That's what she said. Now, let me ask you a question, family. Let me know in the comments. Is there a bigger example of telling people what they want to hear than standing in front of a progressive audience talking about abolishing the police and then 4 years later sitting on ABC laughing and saying woke one was crazy? That's not growth. That's not maturity. That's not evolution. That's telling whichever crowd is in front of you whatever they need to hear in that moment. That's the definition of a performer. She accused Trump of doing the exact thing she was doing live on television with a camera on her face. But here's the difference, and this is important. When Trump said he was going to bring energy independence, he did it. Drilling permits went up, gas prices went down, and the United States became the world's leading oil and gas producer. When Trump said he was going to cut regulations, he did it. Over 1,000 pages of red tape gone in his first term alone. When he said he was going to negotiate trade deals, he did it. USMCA replaced NAFTA and brought manufacturing jobs back to America. When he said he was going to appoint conservative judges, he did it. 3 Supreme Court justices, 54 Circuit Court judges, and 174 District Court judges. So if Trump knows what to say, quote unquote, at least his word matches his actions, or words, I should say. And you can hold him to what he said because he actually did it. AOC words today contradict everything she said 4 years ago. And she's asking you to trust the new version without admitting the old version was wrong. And let's talk about her claim that Trump is jacking up prices on rent and groceries, because I want to break this down in a way that makes sense to us regular people. AOC wants you to believe that high grocery prices are Trump's fault. But let's think about what actually drives the cost of food. It's not political talking points, it's logistics, it's transportation, it's fuel, it's energy. You want to know why groceries are high? Because energy costs are high. And energy costs are high because the exact same policies she and her party pushed for made it harder to produce American energy. They shut down pipelines, Biden administration. They paused drilling leases. They made it harder to get permits, and they made it harder to extract the resources we have right here in this country, United States of America. Trump opened up drilling. Trump approved pipelines. Trump cut the red tape. And when he did that, gas prices dropped. When gas prices drop, the cost of transporting groceries drops. That's not complicated. That's not a theory. That's how the economy actually works. But here's the part AOC won't tell you. The inflation we're dealing with right now didn't start yesterday. It started when the government printed trillions of dollars and pumped it into the economy, something Democrats supported. It started when supply chains got tangled up in regulations and pandemic shutdowns, something Democrats supported. It started when energy policy became about fighting climate change instead of keeping the lights on, something AOC absolutely supported. And she was all in on the Green New Deal, and she was all in on spending trillions. She was all in on shutting down traditional energy, which is drilling. So now she wants to stand on ABC and say Trump isn't lowering your rent. Let's ask a different question. What did she do to lower your rent? She supported policies that made building housing harder, zoning restrictions, environmental reviews, permitting delays. She supported tax structures that pushed development costs onto renters. And she represents New York City. She represents one of the most expensive places to live in the entire country. So maybe before she points fingers at Trump, she should look at the policy she's been championing for the last 8 years and ask herself why working families in her own district can't afford to live there. In the war in Iran, let's talk about that, because this is where her argument falls apart completely. She said Trump is jacking up prices by starting a war. But what was the alternative? Letting Iran get nuclear weapons? Letting them continue to attack our allies, our troops, our interests around the world? The reason we're in this situation is because the previous administration, the Biden administration, gave Iran billions of dollars and a clear path to a nuclear weapon. That was the Obama-Biden policy. That was the policy Democrats defended every step of the way. They gave Iran money, actual pilots of cash, and loosened sanctions in exchange for promises that Iran broke immediately. And now that Trump is actually doing something about the threat that's been building for years, as they chant death to America, AOC wants to blame him for the consequences of cleaning up a mess she helped create it. That's like setting your house on fire and then blaming the fire department of the water damage. She doesn't want to solve the problem. She wants to complain about the solution because complaining is easier than having a real plan. So here's the truth, family. AOC is sitting here on national television telling you Trump is all talk. But she's the one who spent 4 years screaming about abolishing the police, and now she's laughing and saying woke one was crazy. She's the one telling you Trump can't lower your grocery bill, while she supports policies that make energy more expensive. She's the one accusing Trump of being a performer while she's giving a performance of a lifetime trying to save her political career. And the most revealing moment of this entire interview here came when he asked her the simplest question: how have you changed since you came into office? This should be the easiest question in the world for someone who claims to have evolved. You just name one thing, one policy, one vote, one position you had that you now see differently. That's it. That's real accountability. That's how adults take responsibility. But she couldn't do that. She literally could not name one specific thing she was wrong about. Instead, she gave America the most carefully crafted non-answer I have ever seen. Life changed me. My aspirations for our country. It humbles you and also emboldens you. Let me tell you something. That is not an answer. That is an escape route dressed up in a graduation speech. And she took a question that required specifics and answered it with feelings. The question was about policy. The question was about votes. The question was about the things she actually did that hurt real people. And she answered with a Hallmark card. Think about it from an everyday perspective. If you were wrong about something in your life, a decision you made, a position you took, a vote you cast, what does real accountability look like? You name it, you say, I supported this, I was wrong, here's why, and here's what I believe now. That's how it works. That's how you earn trust back. But AOC couldn't say, I was wrong about defund the police. She couldn't say, I was wrong about the Green New Deal. She couldn't say, I was wrong about any other positions that got me elected. Because the moment she names one specific thing she was wrong about, she's admitting the other ones might be wrong too. So instead, she hides behind, life changed me. What does that even mean? What specific experiences changed what specific policies? She didn't say, because she can't. Because the truth is, she hasn't changed her beliefs. She's changed her marketing. The product is the same. She just put it in a shinier box.
I think that we are in a time of renewal for the Democratic Party, and it's tremendously exciting for all of us, for the big tent of the Democratic Party.
You know, this week there was also a prominent Republican, a very prominent Republican, who said some things about wealthy corporations profiting, effectively fleecing Americans. It sounded a lot like what I've heard you said. I want to play this and see your reaction.
Sure.
They're making too much money, okay? Based on a shortage, they're making too much money. I don't like it. When you look at one company where they made 12 times what they made the year before, they're going to give some of that back to the public, and they better cut the retail price, the consumer price.
Well, that was Donald Trump, obviously, talking about oil and gas companies and high gas prices. What did you make of that?
I think that everyday people, everyday Americans, we can see the very large gap between what Donald Trump says and what Donald Trump does. And so Donald Trump may be saying that oil companies are making too much money, but what Donald Trump is doing is starting a reckless war in Iran, having closed-door meetings with oil companies before his election, saying, you know, you give me money, you give me campaign contributions, and I will do whatever you want. And so what we have seen, everything from Supreme Court ruling.
No, what Trump is doing, there's no backdoor deals, okay? She's projecting because that's what the Democratic Party do. They do things like propping up health insurance in the name of making sure everyone have health care, but not trying to explain who pays for it because they want to work with the insurance companies so they can get basically back pay, or I should say kickbacks, right? What Trump is saying, do not use a tragedy when we have oil here in America, even though oil is basically priced by the global market, because we can make oil cheaper. But the simple fact is oil will be brought out by other countries because they want oil here. And then we will basically, because we're selling it cheaper instead of the global market and how other countries price their oil, we will basically be shortcutting ourselves and bringing money back into the economy because all they would do is buy in bulk and take it back to their country and make sure they're straight. But we're being cheapened. We're being, how can I put this? We are cheating ourselves because we are not getting the full price in what other countries are charging because we decided to lower it. And all they're going to do is hoard our oil that we make here in America, which we have oil here in America, which is why we drill. We just market it the same way the rest of the country do because we want to make sure we get maximized profit as well to pour back in our economy as we continue to thrive as a country, right? So the simple fact is this. That's why we are becoming, and I mentioned earlier in this video, we are the leading country when it comes to oil. And then we'll have China coming here to our country to actually have a reliable, sustainable way of getting oil from us, in which it pumps our economy because they have to buy it the same way they use us, United States of America, because we control the market. As consumers, we are the market in which they sell their products over here in America, which is why their country thrives so successful, because we are the market. We is the market. We create the market. We are the country with the most propped up of consumers. And we have the most customers consumer-wise. So we enrich these other countries as they sell their products here, which is why it was only fair in the name of tariffs until the Supreme Court made our president basically retract that and charging a tax for importing and exporting their goods here while they continue to basically freeload off of us and was importing and exporting for free and just shipping their products over here, Shein and Alibaba and all those things, which were a cheaper product. They didn't care because they just wanted to profit off of Americans, the consumers, the customers, to take it back to their economy. Well, but we can't sell anything as a country over there to China. So at least we could do is tax it. We already letting y'all take advantage being diplomatic, even though we are better together than apart, but we still compete amongst countries wise and being adversaries. Better to do business than apart, but still, I'm not your best friend. We just doing business, right? So the simple fact is, us leading in oil, and now our president has said that basically we will not even need the Strait anymore in the future because they're going to create pipelines under it, which leads to us being the leader in oil that I mentioned. And then when it comes to these gas companies, he's not worrying about getting kickbacks and back-end deals. She's projecting what the Democrats do onto President Trump. The reality is they do that with the insurance company, like I mentioned. He is telling the gas companies, stop basically using the tragedy when we have oil here in this country to be greedy and basically price gouging and raising prices off the back of our Americans because you're slamming them based on corporate greed. So he's holding them accountable. It's not about Trump or Trump getting anything as in backdoor deals. That's what Democrats do.
To Donald Trump's own policy is what he is doing is jacking up the price, not just at the pump, but at everything that you buy that requires the transportation of goods. And so he can say whatever he'd like from the Oval Office, but I think people are more looking at what he chooses to do.
But that's a reflection of what he is seeing the people care about, what the people are thinking.
And, you know, to the president's credit, he comes from television and he's very responsive to public sentiment. And so he knows what he needs to say. But again, none of that is going to lower the cost of your rent or your mortgage. None of that is going to lower the interest rates that you're paying. None of that is going to make your grocery bill more affordable. And what we want to know and what we want to see is action.
You've changed as well, right? How have you changed since you came in as this insurgent rebel at odds with the Democratic leadership? How have you changed?
You know, I think life has a way of really weathering you and adding to your context and your experience. It humbles you, but it also emboldens you in a lot of ways. And I think it has been the greatest privilege of my life to be able to represent the working people of my congressional district. And I think some of the ways that it's changed me has been to be able to come in with so many aspirations for our country, and then to have the remarkable opportunity to be in the arena and try to make the country a better place, challenges and all. And I love that it's hard. I love that I have to, and I get to engage with people from all across the country, elected officials from all across the country, to try to actually fulfill our dreams to guarantee health care to every American.
And you continue to push for change in the Democratic Party, but you're also one of the most prominent figures in that party. right now. Your endorsement is incredibly valuable. I've noticed that this time around, this election cycle, you have not endorsed you've not endorsed candidates that were challenging Democratic incumbents in the House. And somebody took note of this. A fellow progressive wrote recently, the headline in The Hill was, "Today's cautious AOC would not have endorsed the AOC of 2018." Because you were obviously running against an incumbent. I mean, that's probably correct, right? What's your thinking there?
You know, I wasn't endorsed by anybody when I was running.
Your friends.
Yeah, just some friends. So yeah. I wasn't endorsed by I don't think I was endorsed by a single elected official when I was running for office. And, you know, I think when I see so many of these incredible insurgent candidates that are running today, that's part of what makes me so proud of them, is that they do not answer to any master. They are not beholden to any corporate interest or any party boss. And they are completely independent, which allows them to be responsive to their communities and the people that elected them. And I think that in many ways that makes our movement stronger, when you have to rely on your own organizing skills. And I think that it has proven to be quite successful.
Person who's been made an issue is Hassan Piker, who obviously endorsed Abdul Sayed in Michigan. You've been on his live stream, you know, at least a few times. He's somebody who said, you know, that America deserved 9/11. Now he backed off from that.
Yes, yes, he's apologized.
But he said a lot of controversial things. Is he somebody that should have a role in the progressive movement going forward?
You know, I think when we look at our elections that have happened, we have lost young people. Much hay was made about the fact that we lost young men in the last election. And many of the same consultants that are wringing their hands today were the same ones talking about how we need to go on Joe Rogan and we need to be not so, you know, willing to engage in cancel culture. And I think that the flip-flopping on this is a tactical debate that they may be having. I think the fact of the matter is that Democrats can go on Joe Rogan, Democrats can go on Fox News, Democrats have a responsibility to build a winning coalition, and young people are engaging in mediums and conversations that we have a responsibility to attend to.
All right, family. This is where I really need you to understand. Aspirations for our country sounds beautiful on the surface. It sounds mature. It sounds like someone who's been through something and came out the other side wiser. But what does it actually mean? Every politician in American history has aspirations for this country. That's not a platform. That's a greeting card. She's asking you to trust her vague, beautiful, unverifiable aspirations are somehow different from the vague, beautiful, unverifiable aspirations she had in 2018. The ones that led to all those policies that hurt working people. The aspirations didn't change. The rhetoric didn't change. The only thing that changed is the election got close and suddenly she needs to sound reasonable to people she spent years telling to tax the rich and abolish prisons. You see, when the midterms are right around the corner and your party is in trouble, suddenly you start talking about diversity of thought and meeting people where they are. But where was that energy in 2020 when she was on every progressive platform cheering for the most radical policy positions imaginable? She was fine with burning the whole system down when it was popular with her base. Now that the general election audience is paying attention, she wants to sound like a moderate. That's not leadership. That's not principles. That's polling data dressed up as personal growth. And this is the part that should make every single person watching this video stop and think. She did the exact thing she accused Trump of doing. She said Trump tells people what they want to hear. But what was this entire interview? She walked in, laughed at her own past, used a joke from a city councilman to wave away her voting record, and refused to endorse a DSA candidate while claiming she's still part of the movement. That's not growth. That's telling whichever audience is in front of her whatever they need to hear in that moment. Trump says what he says and you can hold him to it. He doesn't change his message based on a room. He says the same thing at a rally in Texas that he says on CNN. You may not like what he says, but you know exactly what you're getting. AOC says whatever the moment requires. As a chameleon she is, and she's asking you to believe her because life changed her. No. Life doesn't change your principles. Life reveals your principles. Hard times don't build character, they expose it. And right now, she's showing us exactly what she actually values: her own political survival. Not the working class, not her constituents, not the policies she claimed to believe in, her own survival. That's not an aspiration for our country, that's a job application. Now, here's where this gets even more interesting, family, because what a lot of people missed about this interview is that AOC didn't just give this answer on ABC. She's been given the same answer everywhere. She sat down with Hassan Piker, the streamer, the progressive, pro-democratic progressive guy who's popular on Twitch as a political commentator. Hassan Piker, yeah, that guy, and said the same thing. Life changed me. As she sat down with Hassan Piker with the streamer. My aspirations for the country. Same words, same tone, same vagueness. But here's what you need to understand. This isn't just a bad interview. This is a strategy. She's testing lines. She's workshopping the new AOC. She's trying to figure out which version of the Dodge lands best with which audience. For the progressive screamer crowd, she keeps it warm and familiar. I still believe in the moment. I still fight for the people. I'm still with y'all. For the Sunday morning political audience on ABC, she dresses up in more professional packaging. My aspirations for our country. Life has changed me. But it's the same product in a different box. And that's exactly why Republicans are going to destroy her with this, because they don't need to pick one clip. They got two. They got the ABC clip where she sounds like she's evolving, and they got the Hassan clip where she sounds like she hasn't changed at all. Side by side, same week, same talking points, different audiences. And that's not a politician who's growing. That's a politician who's pandering. That's a politician telling each crowd exactly what they want to hear. And from a campaign ad perspective, this is a gold mine. Republicans can just play both clips back to back, no narration needed, no spin, no editing, just AOC in her own words on two different platforms in the same week, saying two different versions of the same Dodge. And then flash the question on the screen. If she can be honest about who she is, if she can't be honest about who she is, how can she be honest about what she'll do for you? That ad writes itself, right? She handed them the script. All they had to do was press play. And that's the thing about politicians who try to be everything for everyone. Eventually, the tape catches up to you. And right now, the tape is doing the work that no Republican attack ad ever could. She's exposing herself, and she doesn't even realize she's doing it. Now, I want to zoom out for a second because this is bigger than just AOC. What you're watching here is the Democratic Party's internal identity crisis playing out in real time on national television. You got moderate Democrats who need swing voters who care about things like paying less for eggs and having safe streets. Then you got the DSA activists who want a full ideological overhaul, abolish prisons, abolish ICE, defund the police, public ownership of industries. Then you got the progressives who want energy and excitement, but don't want to be held responsible for their extreme positions. And then you got the candidates themselves who just want to survive November, the midterms. These four groups are not pulling in the same direction. They're not even close to the same direction. And AOC is trying to be the bridge between all of them while pretending the contradictions don't exist. But here's the thing about contradictions. They don't go away just because you ignore them. They sit there and they fester, and eventually they explode at the worst possible moment. And for AOC, that moment was on ABC News. So what are we actually learning from all of this? What's the takeaways for us regular people who just want to understand what's happening in our country? Here it is. The clearest sign of trustworthiness in any person, political friend, coworker, family member, isn't how smoothly they talk about growth. It's whether they can name a specific thing they got wrong and tell you why. A person who says life changed me, but can't tell you what changed and why is asking you to bet your future on a feeling. Don't take that bet. Watch what people do. Hold them to what they said before. Demand they answer the question they were actually asked, because smooth words are easy. Real accountability is hard, and you deserve people who can do the hard thing. When your strategy is just say something vague enough that nobody can pin you down, you're not being strategic, you're being predictable. And predictable politicians get exposed every single time. Family, Proverbs chapter 26, verses 24 through 26 says this: enemies disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. Though their speech is charming, do not believe them, for 7 abominations fill their hearts. Their malice may be concealed by deception, but their wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Now, let me break that down in plain English. What this scripture is telling us that you can't judge a person by how smooth they sound. You judge them by what's actually in their heart. And the way you know what's in their heart is not by listening to their speeches. It's about watching their patterns. A person who says one thing to one group and another to a different group is not someone you can trust. The Bible is telling us that smooth speech could be a cover for something deeper. And eventually that cover gets pulled back. The wickedness gets exposed. And what we watched in this interview was exactly that. A politician whose speech was charming, who talked about aspirations and life changing her, but whose heart was revealed by the fact that she couldn't give one straight answer to a simple question. That's not a leader, that's a performer. And for those of you who may not connect with scripture, here's the life wisdom. Think about it like this. Every relationship you have, every single one is built on the same foundation, whether it's with your spouse, your boss, your friend, your doctor, or the person you vote for. The question is always the same. Can I trust what you say? And the way you answer that question is not by listening to the pretty words. It's by looking at the track record. It's by checking if what they say matches what they do. If it's by noticing if they say the same thing in every room or if they change their message depending on who's listening. A person of integrity says the same thing whether they're talking to a crowd of supporters or a single skeptic. A person of integrity can admit when they're wrong, specifically, honestly, and with details. A person of integrity don't need you to guess what they believe. They'll tell you. And if they don't, that's not a mystery to be solved. That's a warning sign to be heeded. So let me leave you with this. Don't be fooled by smooth transitions and beautiful phrases. Don't be impressed by someone who talks about growth but can't name what they grew from. Watch the pattern, check the receipts, and demand that the people who want your vote, your trust, and your future answer the question they were actually asked. Because if they can't do that, they don't deserve any of it. Let me know what you think in the comments, family. Hit the like button, share this video with somebody who needs to see it. Subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications so you never miss a breakdown. And remember, family, spread that peace, love, and positivity. Let the love supersede the hate. No narrative, no agenda, just receipts.